Hello and welcome to Demon's Forge. This episode I shall be presenting my deck tech for Saskia the Unyielding. Let's start off with the commander. Saskia is a 3/4 human soldier for black, red, green and white. She has vigilance and haste, and when she enters the battlefield you choose a player in the game. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to any other player, it deals that much damage to the player you chose. The main gimmick of this deck is to make extensive use of the cycling mechanic first printed in Urza's Saga. I purposely decided against building an X-Blue cycling deck, as I felt that would be too easy, with all the card draw triggers, enablers and payoffs in blue alone. Don't worry, I have a mono-blue deck in the works I hope to show you in the future, so without further ado, let's explore the tech of this deck. If you're new to Magic, or simply are not familiar with the mechanic, let's sit down the ground rules. Cycling is a keyword ability that allows a player to pay a cost that includes discarding the card. When the activated ability resolves, that player draws a card. As we shall see over the course of this video, each part of this mechanic can be tweaked in our favour. Let's first have a look at our enablers. These are cards you'll want to have in your first few turns to your effectiveness. Fiery Fall, Sylvan Bounty, Gleam of Resistance, and Absorb This all have the ability Basic Land Cycling, a variation of the cycling mechanic. By paying 1 and a coloured mana, you search your library for a basic land, reveal it, and put it into your hand. While green has many 1 and 2 mana spells that can fetch a land to hand, very few can be done in an opponent's turn. This gives you freedom to hold mana up for a quick response to an early threat. Further, each spell is a useful card in its own right, though as commons they're not very efficient about it. Fluctuator reduces the cost of our cycling abilities, and as you will see there are many that can be cycled by simply discarding the card this way. In a multiplayer game, it can quickly become overwhelming to keep up with your opponents. Ghirapur Orrery is a useful tool in the early game as a bargaining chip to convince an opponent or two to leave you alone. This is because the Orrery gives all players an additional land drop, which can speed up games to everyone's pleasure. The second ability is a further political incentive to leave you alone, as well as a good way to let other players not be kept out of the game for too long. As you rip through your deck, you will find that you run out of cards in hand, and this second ability to draw you additional free cards if you're jazz handing will keep you going. Drannith Stinger pings each opponent whenever you cycle a card. Now this may seem counterintuitive to highlight after talking about politics with the Orrery, but remember you can always remind players that it is indiscriminate and that there is always someone else with a more threatening board. When combined with a lifelink counter however, that's a very different story. Snare Tactician may not seem like much, but remember, you can cycle whenever you could cast an instant. Innocently cycling to tap down an opponent's big finisher before they can declare an attack, or leave a creature untapped for defense, can help keep a threat out of the way, or leave an opponent open to a finisher. Horror of the Broken Lands is a humble 5 mana 4/4. This stat line increases with each card you cycle or discard, meaning it can become a very big threat, or possibly a finisher depending on your luck. Prickly Marmoset, much like the Horror, is a simple creature that gets bigger the more you cycle. The difference is the Marmoset only gains power and has first strike. It can pose a threat to creatures that are much more expensive than itself, but is also vulnerable to smaller burn and debuff spells due to its average toughness. Valiant Rescuer asks you to play patiently, cycling on as many different turns as to get the most value. While a 1/1 body may not seem like much, that one body can block many creatures on the ground without flying or trample to save you unnecessary life loss. On the other hand, maintaining a wide board to play a Gleam of Resistance on the attack is also a very welcome feeling. Vile Manifestation is a great early drop to protect you. As the game progresses, its power will steadily climb and become a deterrent for opponents, or possibly a threat if you keep the board clear well enough. Let's talk about some cycling payoffs that will annoy your opponents, so use them wisely. For an additional 1 mana, Ruthless Sniper can start putting -1/-1 counters on creatures. It is up to you to use this politically or chaotically. Faith of the Devoted is another additional 1 mana to drain each opponent for 2 life while you gain 2, very useful for sustaining more drawn out games. Astral's Light could be described as a Swiss Army knife of cycling benefit. You could protect your own creatures from removal, get political with opponents' creatures, or clear a path for a devastating charge. Zenith Flare is the lightning helix you need for this deck. To an extent, it monopolizes your own cycling, and possibly whatever mill your opponents have put into effect. It can be removal for a creature or planeswalker, or in the right moment, a finisher in its own right. Survive Thundermane works in a similar fashion, but is best as an early drop to keep smaller threats off your opponent's field for only 2 additional mana per cycle. Abandoned Sarcophagus is the best for the long game, when you have a full complement of mana available and a graveyard filled with cycling spells. Had it allowed for cycled lands to be played from the graveyard, it likely would have been even more potent. Unpredictable Cyclone turns your strategy to chaos. No one will know what to expect from you. Remember, it is a compulsory replacement effect, meaning you do not get the card draw or land to hand. In truth, you may want to get this card out fast to get the maximum amount of value and chaos from it. Archfiend of Ifnir can devastate the field of your opponents. A 5 mana 5/4 with flying is a decent creature to have at your disposal. The fact he pays you off for your cycling and discard effects, but also having cycling himself, is fantastic value in my opinion. This next section could be described as filler. Each has a useful effect with cycling attached, and usually at a fair rate. Don't worry, there is power yet to be revealed. The main bulk of this deck consists of Jura's Resolve, Suffocating Fumes, Swat, Unburden, Pursue Glory, Haze of Pollen, Without Weakness, Dissenter's Deliverance, Beneath the Sands, Memory Leak, Wandering Death, Coordinated Charge, Go for Blood, Violent Impact, Forsake the Worldly, Jura's Renunciation, Shredded Sails, Stinging Shot, Scarab Feast, Limits of Solidarity, Easy Prey, Footfall Crater, Monstrous Step, Barrier Breach, Stir the Sands, Renewed Faith, Will of the All Hunter, Oketra's Attendant, Rooting Moloch. These last couple of cards I want to make special mention of, as their effects can impact more than just the turn they're cycled. Sanctuary Smasher itself, a 6 mana 6/4 creature with First Strike, puts a First Strike counter onto a creature you control when it's cycled. Splendor Mare is a 3 mana 3/3 with lifelink that gives a lifelink counter. Void Beckoner, an 8 mana 8/8 with Death Touch, gives a Death Touch counter. And Titan of Rex is a 9 mana 11/11 with Trample that gives Trample. Each of these is a combat trick and a draw ability. With the help of the Sarcophagus, can come back later in the game to cause havoc in each their own way. Decree of Justice can provide you a scaling amount of either angels or soldiers depending on when it's used. Not as efficient as Secure the Wastes, but enough filler. Let's have a look at some meat in the deck. Alhammart's Archive and Abundance gives us more card draw from our cycling, and improved card selection respectively. The life gain portion of the Archive may also be relevant with the Splendor Mare and Drannith Stinger combo. Ramunap Excavator allows us to replay lands we cycled earlier in the deck, balancing out with the Sarcophagus. Ingarrick's Wake is a fantastic board clear that affects only our opponents. Why discriminate your ability to destroy? By contrast, Nahiri's Wrath for only 3 mana can turn all those situationally irrelevant cards in your hand into devastating damage in a more precise way. It is also versatile in your ability to decide how many cards are discarded, which can dramatically increase the damage, or ditch extra lands for more targets. The Scorpion God takes full advantage of the widespread removal afforded to you by Archfiend of Ifnir, Ruthless Sniper, and Stinging Shot, but be cautious. It is possible that a wide enough board under an opponent's control can cause you to draw far more cards than you can sensibly discard at your leisure, or become decked out completely, but it is a solid creature that will always come back for more. Primeval Bounty, unlike the Archive or Abundance, cares about the cards you actually cast from your hand or by the Cyclone. If even you only benefit from the regular life gain of the landfall, you'll appreciate having this on your field. Endray's Forerunners will take advantage of a wide board created by Decree of Justice, Stir the Sands, Primeval Bounty, and Valiant Rescuer. Sower of Discord complements our commander, or can be a useful creature to play in more aggressive games. Remember to consider your political decisions with a card like this. The deck makes use of a mana base of 3 of each basic land type, Terramorphic Expanse, Mountain Valley, and Zilfiran Void to name the first group of lands. The next is our fixes, which include the ubiquitous Command Tower, Stanseep Citadel, Nomad Outpost, Jungle Shrine, and Savage Lands. But also the Ravnica Bounce lands, Golgari Rot Farm, Rakdos Carnarium, Orzhov Basilica, Selesnya Sanctuary, and Gruul Turf. The bounce lands allow us to make use of the cycling lands that we may have had to play in order to maintain some sort of land drop curve. Speaking of cycling lands, the ones in this deck we use are Desert of the True, Glorified, Fervent, and Indomitable, Secluded Steep, Tranquil Thicket, Forgotten Cave, Barren Moor, Blasted Landscape, Polluted Mire, and Canyon Slow. Overall, this is a fun deck that has many avenues of doing what it wants to do. Maybe disregarding blue was a bad choice, certainly doesn't feel it makes this a bad deck. If there are cards you think that would be better suited for the deck, let me know in the comments below. That's all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you'll subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content along with Transformers and Wargaming videos.